Congratulations on assuming the new role.
Yeah, thank you, Sohini. Thanks for having me.
So you've been with Biocon for almost 3 decades and you've seen the growth. So now being at the helm, what is your vision for the next 2 decades, let's say?
I joined Biocon in 1997, so it's been 25 years since I joined Biocon as a management trainee. So I started out in research and development back then, and I played a variety of roles across several functions before I got in here. I do have some more time left. I don't know if it's 2 decades or thereabouts, but yes, a significant amount of time left and so much more to do. What we've done over the last 4 decades in Biocon's existence since Kiran founded it is that we've had several growth drivers, almost one every decade, if you were to do a rough math. And there's been an inflection point, one every 10 years roughly, and each one of them have catapulted us into another orbit. Just to name a few, we were an enzymes company when I joined. We moved from there into small molecules. We moved from there into insulins. From insulins, we leveraged all of the capabilities into monoclonal biosimilars. And then we've got novel molecules. So if you really look at it, each of these inflection points got us into the next orbit. But what didn't change in all of this is the entrepreneurial spirit, the approach towards wanting to bring make a meaningful difference and bring affordable access to address what people have now clearly seen as the inequity in access and inequity in their ability to get products that should be a right to people. So I think that hasn't changed. The ethos of the company has not changed. And I think in the next decades or whatever that I'm here, I don't. I think I would want to make sure that we preserve those values and build upon that so that we can make a meaningful difference on the vision that Kiran has set for the company.
So do you think the next inflection point is the Viatris acquisition and how that augurs for Biocon's global plans? How do you look at the deal now that it's closed? What is the medium term impact of the deal? What can we see for the
Yeah.
consumers?
So this is clearly a pivotal moment if you really look at it. We've been partners with Viatris for over a decade. And the intent was that we had complementary capabilities. Biocon was known for its science and its manufacturing quality systems, and Viatris was known for its capabilities in regulatory sciences in the advanced markets and its commercial capability. Now, with this acquisition, what happens is we get all of those capabilities to us immediately. So two things actually. One is the moment we close this deal, which we did on the 29th, which was Biocon's Founders Day, incidentally. So what a better day to have found to do the closure of that acquisition. So having done that, from that day onwards, Biocon Biologics now books the full revenues and profits from the biologics business that Viatris was booking at that point in time. So we were roughly taking about 35 to 40%, roughly in that range of the top line. We now book 100% of the top line. And we were taking 28% of the profits. Now we take a full 100% of the profits. So clearly a much more stronger P&L overall. So that's something that's set to change immediately. But more importantly, it brings us capability to now be a much more integrated company, a fully integrated company, which can bring the portfolio of products that we've not partnered so far with anybody to the market globally. Because now we have the commercial presence in over 100 countries because of this acquisition. And that allows us to be closer to patients than ever before.
I was going to ask you that what does that mean for the patient? Because you're trying to bring more affordable products across the markets that you have got access to, including the developed markets, I'm sure, and the developing markets. So, um, What is the plan there? How many more affordable products would come? Or in your existing range, would you be looking at making them more affordable? What is the plan there?
See, two things in this. What does it mean for the patient is now you have a company which has all the capability and all the levers that can be operated to bring a best cost efficiency to the end of the value chain. So that's clearly something to look forward to. And see, affordability does not necessarily mean cheap. It just means that you can bring a high quality product to a market, which then makes it accessible to patients. I think that is really what affordability is about. And I think that's where we score, because now we have the ability to work across the value chain, whether it is development, whether it is manufacturing, or now whether it is commercialization. So less players in that, so no middlemen, there's no two companies to deal with, better efficiencies, and hence lower costs. So clearly, that's something that patients and payers should look forward to. So that is a positive. The next thing that anybody should look forward from this acquisition is that you have now one company which has all the capabilities in the value chain to bring products to market. So the time to develop a product and bring that to patients is going to be shorter than before, because decision making is faster, capital appropriation and allocation is faster, because decision making overall is now not between two organizations but in one organization. So I would think it would then become more efficient than ever before. And third thing I would say is that it is not an acquisition of rationalization, which means there is nobody who is going to lose a job in this process. So there is no acrimony in the process. There is in fact accretion, which means more people which we didn't have, capabilities we didn't have, gets bolted on. So there is a positivity in this overall acquisition, which generally is missing in most such kind of M&As.
And also in the longer horizon, about 70 billion worth of novel biologics are set to go off patent over the coming years. So, how does Biocon Biologics look at this as an opportunity? This would also mean significant investments in R&D. So, what is the outlook?
Two things, because if you look at it, and I'll probably answer the first one from a financial standpoint, because you'll get a sense of what this actually means. When we were in the partnership mode with Viatris, and I was explaining that we booked roughly 35% of the top line, a third of the profits. When you had a third of the profits, your ability to fund a research pipeline is limited. So supposing you were making, say, $300 million of profit, you get only $100 million of that in the previous arrangement. Then you can only fund 100 towards R&D if you wanted to develop the next product, even if you put all of the profit into R&D. Now, with all of that 300 coming your way, you now have much more at your disposal to develop. So you would technically be able to develop 2 or maybe 3 products, if that is what it took to bring products to market. So your ability to now bring a bigger and a wider portfolio into the market is now much better than you ever had before. So this is clearly the financial upside from what this deal has gotten us. So now you're self-sufficient. You're no longer dependent on this to get it done. This is the financial part. Now, on the non-financial part, on the commercialization aspect, we were looking for somebody else to, so far, after we've developed a product, because we needed a funding partner, somebody else to commercialize it. Now you no longer need that, because you already have a commercial team, and you can actually now look to even not necessarily develop all the products, but you could actually in-license products and then have an even better portfolio, or I would say even a greater portfolio in terms of the number of products you're bringing to patients than you had before. So clearly, the bringing on the capabilities that we didn't have today through the acquisition accelerates what we were trying to do in the past by just being a development and manufacturing organization.
coming back to the Viatris deal, I think you have over 1.2 billion worth of debt on your books, if I'm not wrong. So, and you already indicated that there are plans for an IPO maybe by December 2023. But I was also reading somewhere that talks with key players are on for a stake sale. So could you, explain this a bit to us, whether you'll go for an IPO or will you go for a stake sale, and will this all depend on the valuation that you achieve?
So let me just first explain the funding of the closure. So the way we've gone about doing this transaction, this is a $2 billion cash upfront payment and $1 billion in stock. So that's roughly the stock plus cash deal that we've done. And on the $2 billion of upfronts, we, as you rightly said, $1.2 billion was in debt and $800 million was in equity. The $800 million is broken up as 650 as Biocon and 150 as Serum. The 650 is 230 through internal accrual and 420 through a mezzanine finance. The reason to break it up is just to understand that the interest that we have seen from PE investors today is to invest in Biocon Biologics. The intent would be first to see that we use that to close the mezzanine finance. And that's very critical. And we've said that we would do that immediately post the closure. And that's the first focus. So that would be important to retire that mezzanine finance as quickly as we can. Now, post doing that, we've continued to see interest in the Biocon Biologics stock. Of course, valuation is going to be key to seeing how much we want to do. But now to answer the question on what are the options available to Biocon Limited to raise that, whether it is through Syngene stock sale, that's one option available to it. Second is to further look at equity investment that will come through the PEs. And third option is through a liquidity event, which is an IPO. Now, if you look at it, all the three options are available to Biocon Limited. Although it's not pre-decided which one it will choose, all three options are available. At the right time, Biocon Limited will make that decision on which one it wants to exercise, and if so, to what extent before they move forward. What is important to note is that there's a lot of interest in investing in Biocon Biologics, which is what continues to drive value for us.
So basically, it boils down to what gives you a better valuation. So you go with that.
Yes. That would be the key in terms of how do you want to trade off, because Biocon Limited will have to make a decision on where does it want to, how does it want to raise funds. That would be a key thing that they would want to make a decision.
As you mentioned, Serum, so I was going to ask you, I think the third quarter is when I think the benefits from that deal also start to trickle in. So if you could give us some highlight points on how Biocon Biologics now stands to benefit from Serum.
So Biocon Biologics, we did a transaction with Serum Institute Life Sciences, SILS, where we are entitled, and that takes effect from 1st October of this year. The thing is that we have an assured top line and an assured, I would say a commensurate bottom line, which is in your mid-30s from an EBITDA perspective, that would accrue to Biocon Biologics on an annualized basis. So that is something that will take effect in this financial year for the second half of this year. So we have access to 100 million doses. And even if you take it at a floor price of $3, you're at a $300 million assured top line. And at a mid-30s EBITDA, you're looking at somewhere in that 100, 110, 120 kind of a EBITDA number, which is on a pro rata basis, if you would take it on an annualized second half, is what will accrue to us in FY23.
Right. So in FY23-24, how do you plan to take the synergies from the Serum deal forward? I think there were plans to jointly co-develop products. That was longer horizon, but if you could elaborate on that.
So when we did the serum transaction, Viatris was not obviously on the horizon at that time. Of course, right now, a lot of our energy is to focus on integrating Viatris. But let me just take you through the rationale on why we did the serum transaction and why it makes a lot of strategic sense for us to do that. And so when we were actually working with serum, it was, if you look at our portfolio, all of it is in the non-communicable diseases space. We do not have any product targeting the communicable diseases. And we were going through a pandemic phase where we were looking to repurpose products from our portfolio. And we did repurpose one of our products, Alzumab, which went on to save patient lives, particularly in the cytokine storm space. But we were keen to make an investment in that, a particular area where we thought if we had to go organically, it would have taken us a while. So why not partner with the world's largest vaccine manufacturer by volume, which was Serum? And we began with the COVID vaccines. Now, our partnership obviously is not limited to COVID vaccines. It is beyond COVID vaccines. And we didn't want a big capital investment to be made. We said we'll focus on the R&D and we'll develop new generation products. We will use the manufacturing capacities of Serum, and that is how the model is structured. The deal is structured such that we have access to the 100 million doses a year. We use the the Serum Institute Life Sciences facilities. So we have an asset light model, as we would say, and we would continue to get the assured top line and EBITDA. So once you do that, it allows us then the ability to invest these profits into developing that future pipeline. It could go into vaccines, it could go into biosimilars. That's something that, as a leadership, we would have to take a call. But that is really the rationale behind how we approach that.
And do you know anything specific for the Asian or Indian market in particular that you would be looking at from Biocon Biologics? Because insulin is one area where you're getting serious in India as well. So if there's anything to discuss there.
Yeah, no, India is our home country. I mean, we've always looked to bring products to India. If you look at it, our first biologic launch, if you would look at it, was human insulin in 2004, followed by Basalog, which was our next generation analog, which was in 2009, and those were targeted at patients in India to alleviate that. And when we brought in trastuzumab, that was also the first of its kind, which changed the landscape of what we see in treatment of HER2 positive breast cancer patients. So clearly, it has been a very, very important market for us. We, of course, look to be a little more successful than we've been in some of these therapy areas than we've been globally. Clearly, there's room for improvement there. But we remain very focused and very, optimistic about the Indian market. We made new investments. We've got new leadership team there, and we are seeing, I would say, green shoots in terms of the responses we've received in our metabolic space, and we continue to hold market share in oncology. So I would think that we continue to want to bring our global portfolio to patients in India, which is our home country.
One last thing. So when not working as the MD Biocon Biologics, what interests you? What are your personal interest areas, hobbies? If you could talk about?
Well, several personal interest areas, I would say, but at this stage, the biggest interest area would have been watching cricket. Playing cricket used to be one of my interests at some time, but I would right now say watching cricket has become an area. Watching the World Cup, soccer has been a great pastime. So I would say watching sport is extremely, I would say, de-stressing. It also brings in a camaraderie overall and a common focus. People with different capabilities, one common purpose is so inspiring.
Thank you. Thanks, Shreehas. Thanks for connecting and hope to staying in touch with you in future. Look forward to more such
Likewise, Sohini.
conversations.
Brilliant. Appreciate the time.
If you like this video, share it and subscribe to Business Standard. For more news, views and insights, log on to www.business-standard.com. Do also follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Telegram and LinkedIn.